Hey guys, how are you all doing? I hope you had a good rest if you were on a spring break, and I hope you were having fun doing e-learning if you were actually doing that. For some reason, this week felt so long for me, but I was managed to find something that I wanted to share with you, and it's a book called The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. Just a few words about C.S. Lewis. He tends to be very creative when he explains his view on God or certain Christian beliefs. The Great Divorce is no different because C.S. Lewis gets very creative as he tries to explain heaven and hell. In the preface of the book, C.S. Lewis explains why he wrote the book in the first place. In part, C.S. Lewis was arguing against a book called The Marriage of Heaven and Hell by William Blake, in which Blake says that an evil must exist for good to exist. But scripture actually warns us against anyone who thinks that evil and good can exist or even try to confuse evil and good. The fact is, God does not need evil to be exalted. The very reality of evil actually tells us how much we are in need of God. And it is this message that evil and good does not need one another that C.S. Lewis wants to convey in his book. He doesn't seem to portray hell in the same manner as scripture does, because in scripture it explains hell as a place of eternal punishment with fire. Instead, C.S. Lewis explains hell as a place where people, or rather referred to as ghosts, living apart from one another. Some even living light years from one another. They just cannot bear one another. There is no such thing as a community. There is no such thing as harmony in this place. In chapter 2 of the book, the narrator says that, or in the conversation between narrator and the people living in the hell, says that as soon as a person enters into the town, he or she gets into fight with the neighbor, and immediately everybody just leaves that town. And there's just no apparent reason why they're getting into fight. It's just that they just don't like one another. So every time when someone comes into hell for the first time, everybody just disperses and leaves the town so that they just don't have to deal with one another. This may not be the true reality of what hell might be, but C.S. Lewis does seem to point out something to us. It is that when sin had entered into the world, it caused a broken relationship between one another. Another author, Fyodor Dostoevsky, says the similar thing in his book Brothers Karamazov through a character called Father Zosima. Father Zosima asks a question, what is hell? And he answers, I maintain that it is the suffering of being unable to love. And this becomes the setting for the book. Another interesting thing that's going on in this book is that there is a bus that takes this ghost from hell to heaven. Chapter 1 actually begins with people waiting in line to get onto this bus, including the narrator himself. They're not necessarily visiting heaven so that they can gain their salvation or anything, but just out of their curiosity, they visit heaven. And when they visit heaven, they are actually given the chance to live in heaven under the authority of God. But before they can do so, they need to recognize their sin and repent from their sin. However, they refuse to do so, and instead, they would rather want to go back to hell. So this is just a summary of the book called The Great Divorce. I'll try to go into the details about the book next Friday, but I don't know if you have actually kept up with the news lately. But as the virus continues to spread, the people have now begun to look for someone else to blame, especially the Asian Americans, due to the fact that the virus came from China. In a sense, we are perhaps living in a place described by C.S. Lewis as hell, a world filled with hate for one another, and it's that hatred is increasingly more so because of the virus. Though we can't see each other face to face, I encourage you to keep in touch with one another, and instead of panicking about the situation, I want you to actually seek God and pray through the situation, that the situation will be eased. So be safe out there. I hope that soon we can see each other face to face, and I hope you guys are all do well.